Hey guys, we're here today to have a quick discussion about New World, and a somewhat common complaint that I've heard about the game, which is its lack of story. I did not progress through the entirety of the story available to us in the closed beta, but I am somewhat familiar with what all was covered in that story of the game, and I wanted to bring up 3 reasons that a lacking or loose main story quest can actually be a really good thing for a game, and why I'm really excited about it. This video is not referring to the questing in general, or innovation in the questing system, or a lack of PvE content. There are also arguments for that it's lacking in overall PvE content, or that its questing system can be somewhat boring. I disagree with both of these, but today we are just focusing on the main story quest. The first reason I think this can actually be a really good thing for a game, and not a drawback, is because when you have a loose or a lacking main story quest, it means your character is not the hero. This has happened in nearly every recent large MMORPG. Take Final Fantasy XIV, for example. Your character is this Grand Warrior of Light who is meant to save the realm. The story for Elder Scrolls Online begins out with Moloch Ball taking out your soul and you having to go on this mighty quest to recover it. And then in Guild Wars 2, you work your way up to being the commander and saving the entire world from dragons. All of these games, through their expansions, have moved away from their original storylines just a little bit, but the one constant is that you are the hero. The issue with this system comes up quite a bit. One of the biggest complaints with these games is fetch quests. When I have to run off and go grab these small items for a quest, or go talk up the troops, people get annoyed. Don't you know who I am? I'm the Warrior of Light. Don't these people understand that they're sending the greatest hero in the world on an errand to go pick something up? Being the grand hero in the story can actually become an annoying thing because you gain this sense of entitlement as you're watching through the cutscenes. New World, with its light main story quest and not having your character be this grand hero, takes us back to MMORPGs of old like EverQuest or Ultima Online. You were not this grand hero, you were not someone special or important, you were just another cog in the world. When you're sent on a fetch quest or a small errand, you are a nobody. You are somebody who's just a mercenary or just being paid to come in and help with this small task. And it all makes sense in the grand scheme of things. When you want to go out and gather, craft, or fish, this great warrior is not the person going out and doing that. You are just a fisherman in this world, or you're just a crafter or a blacksmith in this world. Taking off the weight of being the grand hero and moving to being just another adventurer. Not only has a lot of the quests make more sense, but it gives you a more relaxing and peaceful feel inside the game. And also helps with you seeing countless other adventurers out there doing the same things as you or doing the same quests. It makes a whole lot more sense in terms of world building that there's a bunch of mercenaries or adventurers taking on all these tasks to be paid money and help people out, rather than there being thousands of copies of the Warrior of Light but only one of them is referenced at all in cutscenes, or thousands of characters having their soul taken by Moloch Ball but only one of them gets to kill him. A grand and awesome main story quest in MMORPG always breaks immersion because it makes no sense that you are this grand warrior, but there are thousands of other players experiencing the same thing. This dives directly into my second point, which is immersion itself. When you have a grand main story quest in an MMORPG, it has to follow a set pattern and script. You are being taken down a journey that has already been written and might not necessarily fit your character's style or background. In the MMORPGs of old, like I've already mentioned with Ultima and EverQuest, you wrote your character's background. There was a section in your bio where you could actually tell people where you were from, what you came from, and what your character's story was. In the current generation of these games, we are given the story and we are told who we are. And nothing is more immersion breaking than going to Elder Scrolls Online as a heavy armor, high elf Templar and trying to do the Dark Brotherhood or the Thieves Guild storylines, which I should have no part in. This means that I need to entirely break my immersion and my role-playing in order to participate in these quests, or I need to make an alt just for the purpose of doing them. That way I've experienced all the DLCs and content in the game. This same problem happens with Final Fantasy XIV, where I want to play a dark and brooding Dark Knight on that line of good versus evil, and then all of a sudden my Warrior of Light in a cutscene puts on a big smile and waves to the people next to him. It completely takes me out of character. It is not at all how I would want to respond to the situation, but I'm forced into it because of a main story quest. When you have a light main story quest or a lacking main story quest, the story is your own. If I want to play a particular role in New World, I get that choice because the story is ours to write in the world. And I've seen the claim that us writing our own story and creating the story of the world is just a lazy writing technique and actually subpar development, but I see it the other way around. I miss the days in an older MMORPG where the community was the story. Our journey was the history of the game, And it seems that all too often these days, MMORPGs are becoming more and more single-player RPGs, and losing the very charm that brought people to these games in the first place, which was the community. And the third reason I think a light main story quest can be really good for a game is because a heavy main story quest focus can split player base. Now this isn't one that affects everybody that plays the game, and New World has its own versions of it, but it is dialed back from the other games. I've played Elder Scrolls Online for a long time, and although it's very neat for your character to help some town from a sickness or zombies, and then that town shift in the real world and you see it differently, it's incredibly annoying when you go there with a friend of yours who hasn't done it, and they're invisible on your screen because they don't see the town the same way that you do. This can split the players to where they can't exactly group together, and I believe this has been remedied in their newer DLCs, and may even operate entirely different nowadays. But those are the memories I have of Elder Scrolls Online, is being annoyed that one of us had done quests the other ones haven't, so we couldn't see the world the same and would be invisible on each other's screen. My wife and my sister are playing through Final Fantasy XIV for the first time, and all you ever hear them talk to each other about on Discord is, hey, are you at the next dungeon? Are you ready to do that one dungeon? They don't play together at all outside of the dungeons, and both of them play solo up until the point that they get to the dungeon that they need each other's help with. And if one of them passes that dungeon before the other one, it's an annoyance to go back and do it. The main story quest is so structured in Final Fantasy XIV that that's all anyone's doing, and the player base is not determined by what you want to go do at the time, it's are you ready for this one particular event. And the same thing goes for zones in all these games. You can't progress to certain zones in Heart of Thorns or in Path of Fire in Guild Wars 2 until you've progressed to a certain point in the story, or unlock certain masteries. The same goes for Final Fantasy XIV's expansions. The main story quest blocking out areas or changing areas and shifting things in the game splits the player base up. It makes them feel like they haven't progressed to the same point as other players, and no longer has a main story quest you want to do, you're mainly doing it because you need to do it to progress to certain points. Now, like I said, New World does have this to a degree. You have to hit a certain point to choose a faction, which opens up all the faction quests and a lot of the game's content. Then beyond this, you have to get Azos stat upgrades in order to shut down corrupted portals or do a dungeon. But it is dialed back a ton in New World because the main story quest is not needed for much outside of dungeons. If I want to harvest and craft my whole way up to max level, that's an option for me to do. If I want to join some higher level group members of mine and go to a higher level zone, it's not blocked off to me. I can travel there, fight the mobs if I can survive it, and group up with whomever I'd like. I can also PvP players that are higher than me or more equipped than me without progressing to a certain point in the main story quest. Now, I'm a huge fan of a good storyline. I love single player RPGs, and Final Fantasy XIV is one of my favorite MMORPGs. But New World is incredibly refreshing in the way the game is laid out and the amount of fun I had in the game, feeling relaxed, doing whatever it is I chose to do at the moment, and not logging on at night to play with friends and asking every one of them where they are at in this particular storyline. We went out and did whatever it is we wanted. I had no idea where I was even at in the storyline for most of the beta, and I absolutely had no idea where my friend was in the main storyline. We went out, we explored the world, we fought enemies, we made our own stories, and we PvP'd. Whatever it was we felt like at the moment, and we had complete freedom and relaxation in it. I think this is an incredibly good design in New World, and it brings back all the great memories I have of MMORPGs from what you would call the old days. An open, free world without a constricting main story quest is what made the MMORPG genre so much fun, and hopefully can make New World fun too. Hopefully this video was entertaining or enlightening to you. I appreciate you joining me, and I will see you next time.